The Xavier Musketeers might be the closest thing the Atlantic 10 has to a dynasty. Winners of 7 regular season titles, including 3 in a row. But Richmond might have something to say about that this year. A battle for first as Xavier hosts Richmond now. Welcome to Judgment Week, presented by Miller Lite, and welcome to Cincinnati for a game that could end up determining the Atlantic 10 title as Xavier hosts number 24 Richmond. The Spiders are ranked in back-to-back weeks for the first time since 1958. They're in a 3-way tie with Temple and Xavier for first place. The Musketeers have won the Atlantic 10 the last 3 years in a row. Only UMass has ever won 4 titles in a row. Hi again, everyone. I'm Bob Wischusen here with Tim Welsh. Thanks for joining us today. And Tim, this is what you want at the end of a conference regular season. The best against the best. We've only got a week to go. We could end up crowning an A-10 title winner today.
Well, it's the eve of March 1st, so that only means the best are still standing, and these two are the best in the Atlantic 10. There's no question about it. They've proved it all season long. They will be there on Selection Sunday, but here today, they're vying for the Atlantic 10 title.
And the reason they're both vying for the Atlantic 10 title are the members of our Star Watch. 2 terrific guards. We start with Kevin Anderson.
Well, these 2 guys today, they may be vying not only for first place, but for A-10 Player of the Year. Kevin Anderson can get it going in all directions out of the Princeton-style offense for Chris Mooney. They like to go to the rack. They like to open it up. He takes people one-on-one. A terrific, terrific guard at both spots there. And also for Xavier, you look at Jordan Crawford. He'll mix and match his offense as well, but he is instant offense, especially out of transition, off the threes. Played more of a spot-up guy as of late where he delivers the ball, but when they need a bucket, they're going to Jordan Crawford.
Jordan Crawford has been over 20 points in 7 of his last 9 games. As we take a look at our starting lineup, first of all, for Richmond, Justin Harper is the best pros prospect, according to Chris Mooney.
Well, he's a 3-man in a 5-man's body. He steps out, shoots threes, good passer from the top, going inside more as of late, playing more physical game. Terrific power forward for Richmond Spiders.
And speaking of power in the front court, how about Jason Love for Xavier?
Well, they're throwing him the ball a lot more than they did earlier in the year. He's delivering down low. Good passer out of the double teams, but a physical presence inside for Xavier.
The Musketeers have won 12 of their last 14, including 4 in a row. Richmond has won 8 in a row and 10 of their last 11. Their 8-game win streak, the longest win streak that they've had in 12 years. And again, these 2 teams tied with Temple atop the Atlantic 10. So this is a game that could end up determining who wins this conference.
There's no question about it. Let's not forget about Temple. They deserve a lot of recognition as well, just as much. But today it's one-on-one, these 2 teams, how Xavier attacks this matchup zone.
First rebound of the game. Pulled down by Justin Harper. Quick trigger Anderson, and that shot partially blocked. Crawford knifes to the goal and scores the game's first points.
Well, Bob, it's really important for Xavier to push it off the misses, off turnovers, because Richmond, when they get set in their matchup, it's very, very deliberate. It's hard to attack.
Into the post it went. Harper tried to kick it back outside while falling to the deck to Butler, and they call a kick ball. Shot clock down to 10. Anderson looks to go to work. Shot clock down to 5. Gonzalez might have to force one up in traffic. He does. Comes up short. Offensive rebound. Anderson straight away. That's a miss, and then over the back goes Darius Garrett. Chris Mooney in his 5th year. What a job he has done at Richmond. He was a 4-year starter and a 1,000-point scorer in his playing days for Pete Carrill at Princeton. Spent a year at Air Force before coming to Richmond, but he's had back-to-back 20-win seasons.
There's no question. Chris Mooney's done a terrific job. I was teasing him yesterday. I said, you know, with all due respect for the great guards you had at Princeton, including yourself, not many were like Kevin Anderson and David Gonzalez, the guys that can take you off the bounce, shoot threes. So they don't really run a Princeton offense. They run some wrinkles out of the Princeton offense. I like what they do. They spread it. They have a lot of freedom on ball reversal because they're so spaced and athletic at the guard spot.
Already Darius Garrett has 2 fouls. He reached around Love and was called for his second, so he goes to the bench. And Crawford hand checked by David Gonzalez. So the foul's already starting to pile up for the Spiders. And on the Musketeers sideline, Chris Mack, who got the job the way you're supposed to get the job. He was the right-hand man for Sean Miller, went through all of the wonderful success they've had. Sean Miller leaves for Arizona, and Xavier promotes the lead assistant.
And really has evolved as a coach with this basketball team all season long, taking them from one step at a time. Now they're playing excellent basketball.
Holloway can't get it to go. Love lost it out of bounds, but it caroms out off Kevin Anderson. So a fresh shot clock for Xavier. And if there's one area that Richmond really struggles, it's rebounding against a very good rebounding team in Xavier.
Well, Xavier's going to go to they're going to pound the boards against Richmond. Again, they have to try to get those second and third efforts against this matchup where they tighten it up in the back, but they're not a great rebounding team.
Jackson drives it, stripped out by Butler. It'll stay with Xavier with 23 to shoot.
Xavier really hasn't faced a defense like this all season long. It's a 3-2 matchup with a lot of man-to-man principles. They'll do a lot of switching. They're going to try to attack on quick ball reversal. They'll run what they call their cutters offense. They'll do a lot of cutting there. Tough inbounds play.
Dante Jackson throws it away. Gonzalez attacks and scores. So the Spiders are on the board after Jackson turned it over.
Well, there's what you see with Richmond. They don't just sit in a zone. They'll be aggressive. They'll deny. They'll get up in passing lanes, and they'll heat up the ball when they have to.
Jackson, nice look underneath to Love.
That's how you have to beat the matchup. Not only with ball reversal and good cutting by the men, but dribble penetration and then movement on the weak side before the defense shifts.
Drives it, can't get it to go. Crawford, tough shot from the corner.
That was more than tough, Bob. I mean, that was 1-on-5. Richmond doesn't go to the offensive glass, so they get back and don't allow transition. But there, Crawford saw one little gap, quick pull-up on the baseline.
Harper, a 3, knocks it down. So Justin Harper, well, that's tough when you're 6'9", 6'10", and can shoot like that.
That's what we talked about. He's a 5-man with a 3-man game out there on the perimeter. Tough to defend for Xavier.
Good hands again by Gonzalez. He's 5th in the Atlantic 10 in steals at just under 2 a game. And a very interesting player. Someone that Chris Mooney described as the most genuine person I've ever met. That's an interesting way for a coach to describe a player. Usually you ask a coach, what do you think about such and such player? Well, he's got a great left hand. He can drive it, very athletic. He talked about him much more as a person than he did as a player.
He's grown up like most college kids do, but he's become a super leader for Richmond.
McLean uses the pivot foot and weaves his way to the goal. Harper tries another 3. Off the mark. Love clears it.
Better contest that time by McLean.
Don't leave Crawford alone. Holloway from the wing. Way short.
That's what Richmond makes you do out of that matchup. Force some shots while you're standing around.
Gonzalez working on Dante Jackson. Has to give it up. Butler, quick launch. Got it! Ryan Butler's three.
See, there you see the difference, Bob, between the so-called Princeton offense and the Richmond offense, which Chris Mooney has. A little high ball screen, a little one-on-one, isolation, pick and pop, back to the shooter at the top. That's what Richmond will do. They have a lot of wrinkles to their offense.
There's a wrinkle. How do you defend that?
There's a pro wrinkle right there. That's what you call big-time player. Doesn't need much space, just rises up and nails it.
Well, you blink and Crawford's got 7 of the 11. And it's a three-point game. Giroux with the left hand. Love forced him wide and grabbed the rebound.
D'Angelo just doesn't have that explosiveness that he had when he was a sophomore before he blew out his knee.
Goes up again, just off the mark that time, Jordan Crawford. That one with Butler right in his face. Anderson attacks and lost the dribble. Somehow found the loose ball and then throws it to Love. Dante Jackson, also a great three-point shooter. The long rebound and a run out for Kevin Anderson. Quick trigger by Butler. That one's too strong. Jackson allows the flyby. Offensive rebound, Jamel McLean. McLean powers it up. Giroux fouls him inside. That brings us to our first break. The Cintas Center is alive with two teams tied for first in the Atlantic 10.
Well, we knew there was a lot of guards out there today, but the one thing is they're knocking down the threes early, transition, and even in the half court.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Miller Lite. Triple hops brewed for that great Pilsner taste. Taste greatness. And VW, with 13 different models, it's a whole new Volkswagen and a whole new game.
The Cintas Center is a tough place to play. This was the scene before the game. The Musketeer comes roaring out on a motorcycle, and boy, did it light this place up. Xavier is 68-10 all time in this building against A10 competition. So if Richmond gets a win today, Tim, not just do the Spiders take a step closer to an Atlantic 10 championship, but that would be another big addition to this resume heading towards Selection Sunday.
Well, there's no question about it. This team has been there all season long, and you look at their wins. You look at their wins against Florida, especially in Mississippi State earlier in the year. They took Wake to overtime, but this league has established themselves all season long. You're going to see 4 or 5 teams probably on Selection Sunday dancing.
Those 3 teams, according to our ESPN.com insider RPI and Joe Lenardi, the work that he does, not only Richmond but also Xavier and Temple all in the top 26 in the RPI. You saw the 26 next to Richmond's name, but Xavier 18th, Temple I believe 17th, and so it's the top of this conference is very, very good.
How about quietly? Rick Majerus at St. Louis, 10-4, 19-9 overall. 10 wins in this conference was said to be that magic number, and St. Louis is already there.
Crawford kicks it out to Dante Jackson. Drives inside, hands one off, and an offensive foul.
That's what this defense will get you to do. You feel uncomfortable and you kind of make plays out of the norm. Dante Jackson, that's not his game, especially driving baseline. There was no room out there on the baseline. He jumped up, left his feet with nowhere to go.
And Dan Giroux, who missed all of last season with an injury, a 1,000-point career scorer, took that charge. The 31st time he's taken a charge this season for Richmond.
He does the little things. That's why Richmond's been so successful. They have great pieces, and here you see the guard play.
Gonzalez hits a 3, a little stutter step to create some room, and he knocks it down, and we're tied.
Tough to defend out there. They're a 5-out open offense. A lot of great passers, shooters. They'll go backdoor if you get out too far on the ball reversal there. Gonzalez, little room, knocked it down. And one thing about early, I think Xavier has become a little free happy. That means they're standing around too much. Richmond's giving them a little room on the outside. And if they start thinking they can just beat this zone all night by knocking threes down, they're mistaken. They've got to get good inside movement. They've got to get the ball into the foul line, get some cutting going away from the ball. Or Richmond, by overtime, will make you pay by shooting too many threes.
Clock down to 10. Crawford a pull-up, and again, he knocks it down. He is a different level talent, even for the Atlantic 10.
Well, he is, and that's a good identity there by Xavier on ball reversal. The mismatch Giroux in the matchup guarding Jordan Crawford.
Foul called on the cut through the lane. It'll be against Jackson again. So Dante Jackson picks up 2 fouls. And he'll have to go to the bench. Terrell Holloway quickly back in the game. And this is a small group that Richmond has on the floor. They're not blessed with a tremendous amount of size to begin with. But Justin Harper at 6'10" just went to the bench, and Kevin Smith at 6'5" replaced him. Giroux's really the only big guy out there. It's basically 4 guards and a center. And there's your big guy out on the perimeter. Backdoor cut for Smith. What do I know?
How about that delivery, though? When you get past like that, you don't need size. Great little bounce pass, backdoor, open space on the weak side.
Good hands, and it's out of bounds off Lions.
Last touch by Musketeer, Richmond.
Knocked free by Francis Martel. A turnover by the Musketeers.
Turn your head, and Richmond will make you pay. Easy one for the Spiders. Right now.
Tied in Cincinnati, Judgment Week presented by Miller Lite. A huge game between Richmond and Xavier, and men's college basketball continues on ESPN's Big Monday, a Big East Big 12 doubleheader. How many times have we said this year? Georgetown looking to bounce back as they'll take on number 7 West Virginia. And then at 9 Eastern, it's Oklahoma taking on Damian James and number 21 Texas. Big Monday presented by Bud Light on ESPN tomorrow night. For more information, you can always log on to ESPN.com. A huge win last night, convincing win for Syracuse over Villanova. And there's Georgetown. What a roller coaster it's been for them this season, down to 9-7.
And how about the job Mike Bray's done retooling his basketball team with Luke Herringody out the last couple weeks, probably not coming back this year, playing tremendous defense. What a win yesterday at the Hoyas home court.
Butler couldn't hit, wrestling for the ball, a pair of 15s. And Francis Martel and Andrew Taylor create the jump ball. It'll stay with the Spiders.
You talk about Notre Dame just playing tremendous defense now without Luke Herringody. A quicker Notre Dame team trying to make a late push towards March Madness. They're in the mix now. I think Joey's got them maybe in their first 4 out.
Giroux banks one home. Nice post move by Dan Giroux.
Richmond just out there with their hands long, athletic, looking for deflections, always active in their stance, attacking the ball.
Holloway fell out of bounds, and Dan Giroux called for the foul. Let's take a look at Joe Lenardi's latest last 4 in, last 4 out.
There you see the Irish as the 4 out, and St. Mary's, Randy Bennett, hoping to get on that line this year. And Rhode Island kind of going the wrong way right now, but still has 2 winnable games down the stretch against UMass and Charlotte. Kind of must-wins for Jimmy Barron's team.
How about UAB working their way into the field?
Mike Davis, the people in Indiana said he couldn't coach. I think he can coach a little bit.
Offensive foul called on Kenny Freeze. So the moment that Dan Giroux went to the bench, called for 2 fouls, and Justin Harper came back in. Harper gets tied up with Freeze, and Freeze is called for the foul.
Well, this is mano-a-mano inside. The referees are kind of making a statement early. This is not going to be a rough and tumble type game. It's going to be a game where athleticism is going to take over. There you see it by Lions.
Lions with the steal and the finish. And the referees could try and make this a non-rough and tumble type game all they want. It's going to be a rough and tumble game.
Absolutely.
The ball bounces through the legs of Harper. How about the hustle by Butler to keep it alive? And then Harper has his pocket picked. McLean comes the other way off to Crawford.
Right now, Richmond very un-Richmond-like with their ball handling, their scheme, kind of out of sync, but give Xavier credit. They're really up on the basketball, heating it up.
Holloway from the corner, knocks down a triple.
Well, Richmond's defense has got all the hype, but so far it's been Xavier up in the passing lanes, creating the turnovers.
miscommunication. And don't think the Cintas Center doesn't have something to do with that.
A lot of teams are afraid and worried to get out and overplay too much against the Spiders because they'll go backdoor, but they're putting a lot of pressure on the ball, which makes those entry passes very, very difficult to the wing. Right now, Xavier just really using their athleticism on the perimeter.
Holloway penetrates. Blocking foul called, and Holloway will go to the free throw line. Foul will go against Kevin Smith. That'll be team foul number 6 on Richmond. So with 9.5 minutes to go in the first half, Xavier will shoot free throws the rest of the way. Only 3 team fouls on the Musketeers. As we told you, the Cintas Center, 68-10 Xavier in this building, all time against A10 competition, and according to an EA Sports poll, right up there as one of the toughest places to play in America. All time against all competition, Xavier is 133-17 in the 10 years they've played in this building.
Well, you walk into this building, it just reeks of big time. It's a big time atmosphere. It's a high major type place. I mean, you come here, it's as good as any place in the country. The way you're treated, the way the fans are, and that's transcended into great players, great coaches, and winning.
Here they come again. Harper's fouled on a reach-in by Brian Walsh.
Game plan against Richmond. It's not your normal game plan. You've got a game plan for backdoor cuts, for slips, for pick and slides, for post-ups, for pin downs. And so far, Chris Mack's team is very well prepared for everything Richmond's thrown at them.
Anderson shuffled his feet. So Kevin Anderson turns it over. 5 turnovers for the Spiders.
A little Sunday afternoon matinee, Bob. The students are on spring break. You'd think this place would be kind of like Sunday Mass, but it's not. It's rocking. These people are fired up today. I don't know if the students are here, but it doesn't matter.
It's amazing how it quiets down when the crowd knows that Xavier has the basketball. They want to communicate. Lyons, a floater, rolls it home. It's a 9-0 run and a timeout called by Chris Mooney. We'll step aside. The Cintas Center rocking the hometown team up by 7. Judgment Week presented by Miller Lite. 7-point lead for Xavier. You know, Terrell Holloway and Jordan Crawford get all the publicity in the backcourt for Xavier, but they've got this 30-game win streak at home because they're deep, and also because they have a Mark Lyons coming off the bench that's given them a lot at point guard.
A lot of great energy at the point guard spot. He had a knee injury earlier, missed 3 games. He's finally healthy again, gives him that little spark plug at both guard spots.
Speaking of a spark plug, Gonzalez hits a 3. And then stepping in and getting the steal, Kevin Smith.
You can't relax against this defense. 11 times they've had more steals than turnovers in a ball game, so they're going to keep coming at you with those active hands.
Straightaway 3 for Harper.
You think of all the great players in the history of Richmond basketball. You're talking about Anderson, Gonzalez, and Ryan Butler. 3 out of the top 5 in career steals at Richmond.
Lyons for 3. Rims it out. Offensive rebound, McLean. Nice job again by Smith to step into the passing lane and get the deflection. A timeout, though, called by Xavier, and it's granted. Boy, Chris Mooney and his staff can't believe it. They were sure that that was a held ball. But Chris Mack's team instead gets the timeout.
Xavier has to continue to attack from the outside and reverse the ball and go inside on dribble penetration. Then the threes will open. A couple quick threes now in the last couple possessions for Xavier. They've got to understand that they can't just come down and jack against this Richmond team because they're too active on the defensive end. And then offensively, Richmond will knock down shots if Xavier doesn't get out on Gonzalez and Anderson.
Women's college basketball continues on ESPN2's Big Monday. Maya Moore and number 1 UConn look to keep the winning streak alive on the road against number 8 Notre Dame. Big Monday presented by Bud Light tomorrow night on ESPN2 at 7 Eastern. I'll be there. For more information, log on to ESPN.com, and we'll see if UConn can keep the streak alive. They are only 2 away from tying their own win streak from the 2001 to 2003 group at 70.
Number 3, Darian Brothers now in the game.
The longest in the history of women's basketball.
I'm sure there's panic in the streets and stores because they're actually playing games that are under 30 points recently, I've noticed.
Crawford off the mark. Offensive rebound. Love rejected from behind by Kevin Smith. He's had a very active first half.
Just part of that energy that comes off the bench for Chris Mooney. They've got a lot of guys, a lot of pieces, and they all understand their roles.
Smith knocks down a 3, and it's a 1-point game.
Well, there you see the mismatches sometimes that Richmond will create. They put a smaller lineup there. Smith guarded in the corner by Jason Love. He's not used to going out and contesting on a guard on the perimeter.
Love through a double team, fouled by Brothers. And we'll step aside. 6.5 minutes to go in what's been a great first half. 2 of the top teams in the Atlantic 10 in a 1-point game.
That's his first personal foul.
Right now, you can get a great deal on any Volkswagen.
Well, the Tiguan.
All right, Ryan, thanks very much. Baba Shoes and Tim Welsh. It's Judgment Week presented by Miller Lite. Tim brings us inside the play.
Well, Richmond's 5-out offense is so difficult to defend. Basically, a forward and 4 guards. And what they do, they'll hit the high post here. They'll hit Giroux at the top. And at the top, they'll send a backdoor cutter here. And as he comes, the cutter comes through, draws Jason Love into the lane. As that happens, he's not used to closing out on a guard. They skip the ball to Kevin Smith for the easy 3 because they're 5-out. Xavier's not used to guarding 5-out on the perimeter.
Love now at the free throw line. With a win today, he would tie B.J. Raymond as the winningest player in Xavier history. And from a percentage standpoint, would be the winningest player in Xavier history, as B.J. Raymond was 103-35 in his 4 years with the Musketeers. And in the 4 years that Jason Love has been here, team's 102-31.
Well, during last night's game up in Syracuse, Jay Billis and the crew were talking about Andy Routens and how he made himself a player. And this is another example. Jason Love, self-made, work upon work upon work. 4 years of just pounding his body and listening to the coaches. Now he's become a primetime guy.
Giroux steps out and hits a 3. And again, Love not used to closing out on a shooter. And Richmond has the lead.
Well, first it was a guard, then it was the big guy. And right now, Xavier's got some problems on the defensive end.
Jordan Crawford gives the Musketeers the lead right back. Butler, a pull-up. Missed everything. Love, deep position.
Well, great job right there. Started by Jordan Crawford, and then the skip pass to Terrell Holloway, then the high-low. Love just carving out big-time space right in the middle of the lane.
Check foul called on Brian Walsh. Team foul number 5 on the Musketeers.
What you have to like about Xavier, in their offense, they're trying to quick hitters, quick cuts, and then on ball reversal, looking right inside to take advantage of that size. On one end, they're having problems guarding on perimeter. On the other end, they're going inside to take advantage of their size.
So Walsh goes to the bench with 2 fouls. You saw Jason Love. Jason Love was the only player that came back to Xavier from last. From the corner, Gonzalez hits a 3. Love lost lost it. Found it again, and then stepped on the end line. We're having some audio difficulties here, so we apologize for any technical problems that are occurring. But Jason Love with a hustle play couldn't quite keep it alive. Chris Mack pleads his case, but again, Richmond has a chance to take the lead.
Every possession, when you go 5-on-5 against Richmond, it becomes technical difficulties offensively because they just swarm the basketball on ball reversal down on the baseline.
Harper's got a three. Another triple for Richmond.
Well, first it was Smith, then it was Giroux, now it's Harper, all exploiting the big man matchup out on the three-point line.
Shot clock down to 10. Lions pulls up for three. Comes up way short. Offensive rebound and the stick back by Love.
Well, that's got to be disheartening for Chris Mooney. They played about as good as half-court defensive set as you want. Got up, contested, and just didn't win that scrum on the baseline for the loose ball.
Holloway fouls Gonzalez. Team foul number 6 on the Musketeers. 1-point lead, though, for Richmond, with first place in the Atlantic 10 on the line.
For the Musketeers, we have a timeout on the floor.
It's Judgment Week, presented by Miller Lite. Bob Wischusen alongside Tim Welsh back in Cincinnati. Richmond and Xavier. It's a 1-point game, and Richmond has the lead because they're 3-point shooting.
Well, they space the court tremendously. They pass the ball. They look for their backdoor cuts, and if you back away on the perimeter, they'll look to skip the ball. And on the backdoor cuts, they find people on the weak side. They set those pin-down screens, but if you're not aware on the perimeter, they'll knock them down. They don't like to take a lot of threes, but today they've taken advantage of some mismatches, especially at the big guy spot.
They have been unconscious from three-point land against a team in Xavier that's 5th in the nation in three-point shooting defense. As well, opponents this year have only shot 29% on average from three against the Muskies, but over 60% here in the first half for the Spiders. 2-point land, the turnaround good for Justin Harper.
That's what makes it so difficult to defend. If you over pressure on the perimeter, they'll go inside and take advantage down there. There, Justin Harper kind of shown a new move that he's created this year down in the low box.
Lions spins and draws the foul on Harper. Check that. It is a reach-in foul on Martell. And a reminder, fans, that today's game is available on your Flow TV device.
That's his first personal foul, 18th foul for the Spiders. On the line for the Musketeers, shooting 2.
So Mark Lyons goes to the free throw line. He had a bone bruise on his left knee back on January 3rd against Wake Forest. Missed the first 3 games of the A10 season, and then came back against Dayton. And Chris Mack talked about how different his team was noticeably from when Lyons not only came back, but played his way back into playing condition.
Well, certainly Brad Redford's done a nice job over his career as a three-point shooter. He's unavailable today because of a hip injury, but Mark Lyons is a key guy. Not only is spark plug you saw there getting into the gaps offensively, but he's another quick on-ball defender that they can match with Holloway on the perimeter. Xavier showing a little zone themselves here against the Spiders. Unusual move here for Xavier.
Anderson with a floater. Lions, quick hands by Anderson. Trying to keep it alive, but poked it out of bounds.
Chris Mack just trying to take Richmond out of their rhythm. They were getting into a good pace there offensively. First the threes from the bigs, then the post up down low by Justin Harper. Trying to change the pace of their game by going a little zone on that last possession.
Martell out, Butler back in for Chris Mooney. Richmond, by the way, no points from Kevin Anderson here in the first half, and yet they lead by 1. Freeze up and under. And it was slapped out of bounds. 10 seconds on the shot clock for Xavier.
clean looks are at a minimum when you face Richmond's defense. When you turn into the middle, you're going to face the backside help of that matchup zone. You've got to be able to turn and kick, and guys have to slide into open areas.
Lions, a jump hook, rattles it home.
Inventive, and you have to be inventive and creative against this defense because your normal plays will not work. You have to just move and cut and react on offense. That time Lions did both.
Gonzalez from the corner, in and out. And then Anderson just about stole into the backcourt. Mark Lyons only averages 8 per game. He has 8 in the first half.
He's finding those gaps on the weak side, finding a little way, and then showing a little Jason Love move down in the low box for the 5'10" man.
Knocking down another 3 is Jordan Crawford. 14 in the first half for Crawford.
Almost impossible to defend. You've got to get right up on his shoe tops or he'll let it go.
Answering, though, at the free throw line, Justin Harper. We have had 6 ties and 7 lead changes here in the first half. And a chance for another now as Richmond gets the steal. Harper around Freeze. Hit the underside of the rim, then off the top of his head. And it fell right to Kenny Freeze. Lions out of control. Offensive foul and a good call by Bob Donato. No question about it. As Kevin Smith was planted for a while. Coming up at halftime, buzzer beaters around college basketball. Marquette on the bubble. They're playing Seton Hall as we speak. And Joe Lenardi's new #1 seeds. All that coming up with the college basketball halftime report with Ryan Burr. Anderson from the corner. Boy, he's still scoreless. And it's out of bounds, though, off Xavier.
Both teams a little frustrated on the offensive end, trying to rush and push things off pace because getting into the half court and trying to find some open looks has been difficult in the last few possessions. Now Xavier back to man-man.
That 3 won't go. Holloway the rebound. About a 7-second differential between shot clock and game clock.
Here normally they'd isolate at the top, maybe Jordan Crawford 1-4 low or a high ball screen, but against this matchup zone you've got to be able to create quickly on ball reversal with some cuts and maybe a quick pin down screen and look inside.
Shot clock at 12. Holloway needs to get busy with the shot clock down to 7. Shot clock at 4. Holloway penetrates with the left hand. Beautifully done by Terrell Holloway. Game clock down to 5. Down to 3. Butler, good if it goes. Off the mark. Chris Mooney's upset because he thought Terrell Holloway, with the game clock winding down after he made his basket, held onto the basketball a bit and robbed Richmond of a few seconds. And so he was giving an earful to Joe Lindsay on his way to the locker room. All in all, though, no points from Kevin Anderson, and Richmond's right in the game.
Well, that's why they're a great team. They've got balance, but they need Kevin Anderson to step up and try to create a little bit in the second half in order to get back and try to win this game.
So the 5th leading scorer in the Atlantic 10 scoreless, and yet his team's only down by 4. Now it's time for Ryan Burr in the studio. College basketball halftime report. Welcome back to Judgment Week, presented by Miller Lite, and welcome back to the Cintas Center here in Cincinnati. Richmond down by 4 to Xavier. Bob Shoes at Tim Wells set for the start of the second half. 2 teams in a 3-way tie at the top of the conference standings. Richmond shoots 8 for 17 from 3 in the first half, and yet their star player, Kevin Anderson, is scoreless. Last half full or half empty?
Well, they're getting great production from Justin Harper. They're getting great production from some secondary players that they normally don't have to rely on. But defensively, Richmond's kind of taken a backseat. They're not guarding Xavier out on the perimeter very well, and Xavier's done a nice job with their scheme, attacking, getting in the gaps, getting quick buckets in transition.
As we go inside the play, we'll take a look at some of the work that Jordan Crawford did in the first half, and he was attacking.
We're talking about that scheme. Out of transition, what you'll see is you'll get into the gaps here, and you'll get to the rim quickly. You have to get the ball up and down the court and finish before Richmond gets their defense set. And here you see Crawford, one of the best at attacking the inside, the kind of the gap of the wing against Richmond's defense before they even get set in their half court in their 3-2 matchup zone.
Crawford, as we said, has been over 20 points, 7 of his last 9 games. He's well on his way to that number again. David Gonzalez and Justin Harper doing what they can to pick up the slack for Kevin Anderson. But the 5th leading scorer in the Atlantic 10, Kevin Anderson, averaging just under 18 points a game, scoreless in the first half.
Yeah, and I think that's not a problem, really. I think they'll understand that he'll get his looks. He'll keep getting good looks off the 3 if they keep cheating towards Anderson. But more importantly, they've got to defend better, and they've got to get out on Jordan Crawford quicker in transition and take away dribble penetration from Holloway and Lyons.
Pass intended for Crawford, thrown out of bounds.
Xavier hasn't had many of them, but that was really a bad possession. They had 5 guys on the same side of the floor there. Jordan Crawford kind of crowded things, cut to ball side when there are already 4 men there. Normally Xavier's been very balanced.
Richmond out-rebounded by Xavier in the first half, 18-9. But that's not their strength.
You know, and 3-point shooting isn't Richmond's strength either. They only take about 19 a game. Took 17 already in the first half.
Anderson finally hits his first bucket of the game on the first second-half shot for Richmond.
Now that's their game. You know, move the ball, space it, take an occasional 3, and then find Anderson at the end of the shot clock.
Crawford attacks again, rejected by Garrett. Anderson with a ball fake, wrap-around pass. Garrett couldn't hit. The Spiders miss out on the 2-on-1. McLean lowered his shoulder, offensive foul call.
Terrell McLean very, very aware down the low block there that Darius Garrett is a shot blocker coming off that first possession. Really swatted one, had 14 blocks in a game earlier against Mass. So he can get the job done defensively in the lane for Richmond.
Another foul called on McLean. So Bob Donato and Ray Perrone making lots of friends here in Cincinnati.
Showing that you show out too far and you get in the path of the ball handler and make contact. That is a foul. Correct call.
Harper for 3. Knocks it down again. The 9th 3 of the game for the Spiders, and they've got the lead back.
When you watch tape of Richmond, they do things a lot differently than the Princeton offense, but today they look a little bit like Princeton, stepping out, shooting all these 3s.
McLean will go to the free throw line. Another foul on Darius Garrett. That's his 3rd. He picked up 2 in the early stages of the first half. Garrett only played 1 minute in the first half.
Well, Justin Harper, we talked about it in the open. He's a 5-man body, but he's got a 3-man game. He's, as of late, been going down low and showed a little bit of a low post game in the first half, but really been a tough guard for Xavier when he steps out against their 5 and 4 men beyond the 3-point line, behind screens, and knocks it down.
D'Angelo back in as Darius Garrett sits down. We've now played 22 minutes, and Darius Garrett, who's number 4 in the Atlantic 10 and block shots per game, will have 3 minutes of playing time. We'll see when Chris Mooney brings him back. Tied again.
Inexperience right there showed. He kind of caved in on the low post there. Good call by Joe Lindsay.
Harper launches again.
Too quick. Chris Mooney didn't like that shot. He's got to take that out of their offense. Great communication by Richmond here in the defensive set.
Instead, though, straight away, wide open was Jordan Crawford. He's got 17.
Well, off those high ball screens, Richmond has to do a better job of jumping out on the shoe tops of Jordan Crawford, or he will knock it down very quickly. Doesn't need much time or room. Ball
movement, Gonzalez for 3. Anderson skies in the air, and the point guard sneaks inside and creates an extra possession. Now Gonzalez attacks Love. Can't finish with the left hand. Out of bounds. And it's off Jason Love.
A rare couple of offensive rebounds for Richmond. They only average 9 a game because they run back and take away transition first before going to the glass. But Kevin Anderson trying to make things happen, and now Gonzalez too.
Gonzalez snuck inside, caught Xavier napping. Perfect out-of-bounds underneath execution by Richmond. And the first free throws of the game for the Spiders as Gonzalez goes to the line. David Gonzalez averages 14 a game, but he really has become a team leader, a 1,600-point scorer in his career. His freshman year, Richmond was 8-22, and he almost transferred. Men's college basketball continues on ESPN's Big Monday with a Big East Big 12 doubleheader. First at 7 Eastern, Greg Monroe and Georgetown will take on number 7 West Virginia. Then at 9 Eastern, the Red River rivalry on the court, Oklahoma, Texas. Big Monday presented by Bud Light on ESPN tomorrow night. But Gonzalez, who lost 4 games his entire high school career, sat down with Chris Mooney. Chris Mooney actually released him from his scholarship at one point. Said, if you think like you should leave, that's fine. We'll let you leave. They talked about it. He decided to stay. And he has become a real leader with this program.
It's amazing what maturity does. I mean, he said, I don't like the coach. The city's boring, and I don't like the school. Now he loves everything.
The loose ball, and on the broken play, Terrell Holloway gets a layup.
How times will change. You ask him today, he says, I got a great coach, which he does. It's a great school, which it is, and Richmond's a nice place to be as well, the city.
Anderson gets inside with the left hand.
I'm sure Chris Mooney had a little talk at halftime, said you have to be more aggressive off the bounce.
Holloway was totally out of control, tripped as he passed Anderson, and it's a turnover. Richmond has the ball when we come back. A 1-point game, 2 of the top teams in the A-10.
32 to go. Marquette looking good.
That Ryan Judgment Week presented by Miller Lite continues here in Cincinnati. Some Richmond fans found their way into the Cintas Center, and they see number 24 hanging right in there with Xavier. 44-43. Xavier on their way to the tournament, you'd have to say, for the 5th straight year.
I think the great component there, the most important, is the bad losses none in this win down in Gainesville. They went to Florida really in the heat of the Atlantic 10 season, just rolled right in there and had a dominating win the last 10 minutes. And that's really because their inside play has been much improved in the last month.
Gonzalez with the kick out. Ball movement. Wide open Anderson in the corner. Buries it.
Xavier has to kind of retune with their scouting report on Kevin Anderson. First half, tremendous job just getting up in his grill. Second half, leaving wide open.
Answering at the other end, though, Terrell Holloway, and we are tied again.
Well, you can see why these teams will be on the board on Selection Sunday. Just 2 terrific teams on both ends of the floor. Great execution, just keep going back and forth.
3 off the mark by Ryan Butler. Crawford a fadeaway. Has another.
That's almost unguardable. You got Ryan Butler at 6'7", who Chris Mooney calls the best defensive player he's ever been around. Up there right in Jordan Crawford's grill. Creates space and then a little step back.
Backdoor cut. And the ball movement. Anderson leans in. A little too strong. And he knocks it out of bounds. All the Musketeers and most of the Cintas Center think Anderson knocked it out, but it's ruled out off the Muskies, so it stays with Richmond.
Bobby Donato had the best look at that, but here you see why most people think this band will be in the NBA in a couple years, or maybe not sooner. The Xavier fans are a little nervous about that, but right now they better enjoy him because he's a great one.
Kevin Smith feeds Gonzalez for 3. Anderson bumps Crawford out near midcourt. Second foul on Richmond here in the second half. A reminder what's at stake between these two teams. They are both tied with Temple for first place in the Atlantic 10. There's a very good chance, though, if Richmond wins this game, that will just about lock up the conference. They already have a head-to-head win against Temple as well. So if Richmond can get this win, they've got wins over Temple and Xavier on the resume. And down the stretch, obviously challenging games. They play Dayton at home coming up next, but
they have to go.
What an upset that would be if Richmond ends up winning the Atlantic 10 and they get a win over Xavier on the road to do it.
There's no question. Just you look at the coaching jobs in this league, just really tremendous. Fran Dunphy, Rick Majerus, Jim Barron, these two guys here this afternoon.
Holloway from the corner. That one's blocked. Anderson with a great job of recovering. 11 on the shot clock for Xavier.
Let me just tell you about, in your first year as a coach, it's the most difficult year of your life when you're the first year as a head coach. But taking over this program may be more difficult than any in the country, just with the success they've had. Chris Mack has been unbelievable.
Shot clock at 4. Lyons floats in, can't hit. Offensive rebound, McLean, and he squeezes it up and in.
Talk about the coaching job. That's what Chris Mack has done. He's got Jamel McLean to believe in his role out there, and there you saw it. Pounding the boards, doing the little things on the interior.
Anderson on the move. No good. And then a foul called on Kevin Smith.
That's his second personal foul.
Second on Smith. Third on the Spiders here in the second half.
Well, again, another thing I like what Chris Mack has done today, he has not just stayed with the traditional man-to-man. He's kind of mixed up his man-to-man on the weak side, not denying reversals, taking away the backdoor cuts, and really pressuring out here on the second half and taking away the three-point line.
How much of the Princeton offense do you see in what Richmond does?
Well, it's tweaks. It's just little stuff, part of their scheme. It's totally Chris Mack's offense. I mean, there's parts of it that's, because you go backdoor doesn't mean it's the Princeton offense.
Right.
But you know, what they do is he coaches to their strengths, and I really like what he does with this team because he gives them a lot of freedom, especially on ball reversal. He'll let his guards go do a lot of one-on-one moves.
Well, they left Gonzalez alone. Instead, he attacks. Can't finish, but there's Darius Garrett on the follow.
See, that's the difference. That's what Richmond will do. And you talk about Georgetown. These guys understand that it's their offense. They built this offense to go to their strengths of their personnel, and that's what Richmond's done.
Curls inside, sets up Holloway in the corner. Holloway with the left hand.
Terrell Holloway just slicing and dicing right now, finding the seams and the gaps on ball reversal. What control, and then the delivery and finish with the left.
Garrett through Kenny Freeze. Lyons again penetrates. Too strong. Weak side rebound, McLean. And he's fouled. Penetration and the offensive glass allowing Xavier to start to take over.
Well, you can't stand around and on ball reversal, find that seam, and here you see the little guy from Long Island finishing it with a flurry.
Oh, Grandmaster.
Judgment Week presented by Miller Lite. Nice job by that mom there. You got to have the nachos at the ready to keep them occupied if you want to pay attention to the game. It's not my first rodeo. I know what that mom's going through. Women's college basketball continues on ESPN2's Big Monday. Tomorrow night, Maya Moore and #1 UConn want to keep the streak alive against #8 Notre Dame. Big Monday presented by Bud Light tomorrow night at 7 on ESPN2. And if Notre Dame could just get a lead in the second half, they'll do something that nobody else does against UConn. How about this? In the 68-game win streak, UConn has trailed in the second halves of their games by a total of 3 minutes and 37 seconds. That's less than 0.5% of all of the second half minutes that they've played. They've never been behind by more than 2 in the second half of a game in the 68 game.
I knew if I looked hard enough I could find something to question Gino about. Now I've got something on him. And
what happened during those 3:37?
How about the most dominant team I've seen, we've all seen in maybe forever in college sports. I mean, unbelievable and just so much fun to watch.
And you know what? You asked Gino Auriemma to compare that team to the Taurasi Bird group that basically the entire bench was a first-round WNBA selection. He would say that this team, as good as they have been, can't hold that team's water. That's pretty impressive. If you win every game by 30 for 3 years in a row and you're a solid second place to his other team.
He's got to have something to say negative to this team. Trust me, he does use psychology.
Anderson with the shot clock down to 10. Anderson looking for some room. Shot clock down to 5. It's one-on-one now for Anderson. Has to force one up. Great defense that time, man-to-man by Terrell Holloway.
Well, again, Xavier, everyone talks about their offense. Everyone talks about Richmond's defense. Rightfully so, but Xavier's defense, very underrated.
Eddie Freeze couldn't catch up to the pass from Mark Lyons. In the Atlantic 10, there's only 3 teams right now, Richmond, Temple, and Xavier. With a week to go, they've got a 2-game lead over St. Louis, all of them in the loss column. And Richmond has already beaten Temple head-to-head, trying to do the same against Xavier, but there's a very good chance that the winner of this game might end up winning the conference.
Well, when people talk about youth, a lot of coaches use youth as an excuse when they're not winning, but Rick Majer's team is the youngest in the country, and see them at 10-4 is unbelievable with all freshmen and sophomores.
Butler comes up way short, and Richmond has now gone cold. From the corner, Jackson off the mark. Good rebound inside by Gonzalez. Anderson over Freeze. That's a big shot for Richmond. They really needed a bucket.
Well, he was going to take it all the way to the rack, and he saw the big fella Freeze standing in his way, and then nice middle game stop and pop from Anderson.
All 9 for Kevin Anderson in the second half. Holloway just about lost the dribble, hounded by Butler. Fadeaway 3. Rebound to Harper, and he's fouled. Andrew Taylor picks up the cheap one. Kevin Anderson's been a different player in the second half.
Well, he came out of the locker room much more aggressive. First half, he kind of stood around. Second half, off the bounce, taking things to the rack, understanding they need his explosiveness and his creativity. Xavier showing a little 2-3 zone again.
Great job by Lyons, anticipating the Giroux pass, and he finishes.
Great moves from the bench, Chris Mack, surprising Richmond with a 2-3 zone.
Anderson down the lane with the finger roll, and he missed the bunny. Gonzalez, though, intercepts the pass intended for Love. Numbers for the Spiders. Gonzalez around Andrew Taylor. What a turnaround.
Well, that's why he's special. Not only defensively, getting back, going middle first, then expanding out, deflection, steal, and then the finish.
Gonzalez with over 160 steals during his career, 4th best all-time at Richmond. Tate Jackson down the lane. Just about dragged his pivot foot. The Richmond bench wanted to walk. Shot clock down to 5. Lyons with the shot clock at 3. Forces it up. Good wall off inside by Giroux and Butler. Justin Harper spins into Taylor. Comes up short.
Justin Harper's worked on his back to the basket moves, been a better force down there, a guy that can throw the ball to, but he was a little bit too far out of his comfort zone. He should have passed it back out.
Timeout called by Chris Mack. 7:47 to go in the second half. 56-52, Xavier has the lead, but David Gonzalez keeping Richmond close.
Defensively, he makes all the moves, and the tough finish against the backside of the defense.
Coach.
All right, Ryan, thanks very much. Judgment Week presented by Miller Lite. Richmond trying to avoid Seton Hall's fate, coming close as they are down by 4 against Xavier, and there have been a lot of big news and notes in college basketball as we go coast to coast with Syracuse dominating Villanova in the second half last night. Look at the bottom of the screen. How about what Steve Alford's got going at New Mexico? What a huge win that is on the road against BYU.
You're talking about one of the biggest games ever in that conference, and you talk about Steve Alford, and certainly he made a nice move going from Iowa to New Mexico and rejuvenated things out there. And another guy, National Coach of the Year candidate.
Shot clock down to 10. Crawford in the corner with the shot clock at 5, and with the shot clock winding down, a hand check by Kevin Smith. 15 foul on Richmond. We'll step aside again as Judgment Week rolls on in Cincinnati.
It begins with a brush. Basketball is brought to you by Miller Lite. Triple hops brewed for that great Pilsner taste. Taste greatness. And Infinity. Luxury cars that deliver inspired performance.
Judgment Week presented by Miller Lite here at the Cintas Center in Cincinnati. We have had 10 lead changes, 8 ties, and arguably with the Atlantic 10 on the line, Richmond trailing Xavier by 4 as we talk about what to watch for. Wednesday on ESPN. UConn back in action, and obviously against Villanova and West Virginia, those are some big wins. Senior night, Luke Herringody will be honored in spite of the fact that he's been out for Notre Dame. And Grievous Vasquez second in the ACC. And Duke will play Maryland at 9 o'clock on Wednesday night.
Exciting week for Maryland. A great win over Georgia Tech, and then last night double overtime against a very good Virginia Tech team on the road.
Love uses the left hand. They talked about the fact that he is a hardworking, self-made player. That move is probably good evidence of exactly that.
Well, conditioning's been A+ for Jason Love, being able to play in these type games from start to tap the buzzer there. Great carving out of space and nice left.
Foul called in the corner on Janelle McLean as he ran over Dan Giroux.
Xavier foul number 22 as Janelle McLean. That's his third personal.
McLean's third, all 3 here in the second half to go along with 7 points. Each team now with 5 team fouls as we are under 7 minutes to go. Richmond with a big challenge on the road against Chris Mack's team here in Cincinnati. Again, at the Cintas Center, Xavier is 68-10 against A10 competition. But Richmond is 5-1 in the Atlantic 10 on the road this year. And now Anderson called for an offensive foul.
A little too quick there for Kevin Anderson. Came off very anxious here in the second half. Made some good moves on ball reversal, getting in the gaps, but there. Mark Lyons found the angle, took the charge.
At the Cintas Center here in Cincinnati, the home court for Xavier. Bob Wischusen and Tim Welsh bringing you 2 of the top 3 teams in the Atlantic 10 as Xavier and Richmond are tied with Temple for first place in the conference with only a week to go. And it has been a tight one throughout.
Again, you see Butler going for the steal at the top, gambling, but recovering with the help defense and then deflection, another steal.
Giroux finds Butler for 3. Got it! Ryan Butler buries a 3, and Richmond holds within a possession.
Right when you think Richmond is dead and buried, the great defense down at one end with the deflection and steal, and then the skip, great spacing, and then knockdown by Butler.
Love, hand checked by Giroux. Team foul number 6 on Richmond and 3rd on Giroux.
Ryan Butler is just a guy who knows where to find the space on the weak side, slides into that open area, and Gonzalez with a little screen down on the perimeter to open it up for the wing player.
Ryan Butler, 44 there in red, has basically been a Richmond Spider since birth. His dad, Jeff, was a star for Richmond back in the mid-70s, averaged 16 points as a senior. Then was an assistant coach to Dick Tarrant, the Hall of Famer. So Ryan grew up basically across the street from the gym, coming to practice with his dad, and started Douglas Freeman High School in Richmond. He was going to be a Spider. I mean, that was basically predetermined.
He had those illegal keys that dads give their sons to the Robbins Center. A rumor on the street, and you can see he just understands how to play. I mean, on that last play, finding, not standing on the perimeter, just raising his hand, saying I'm open, finding that angle, that great space on the weak side for the open 3.
Knifing to the basket, Kevin Anderson, and a quick timeout called by Chris Mooney. It's a 2-point game with 5:48 to go. Anderson now in double figures in the second half.
Well, the tremendous crossover, but the thing he does so well is great body balance, avoiding the defense coming in, splitting the 2 bigs, and finishing.
Men's college basketball continues on ESPN's Big Monday, the Big East Big 12 doubleheader. First at 7 Eastern, can Georgetown bounce back again as they take on Deshaun Butler and number 7 West Virginia. Then at 9 Eastern, it's the Red River rivalry on the hardwood, Oklahoma and Texas. Big Monday presented by Bud Light on ESPN tomorrow night. For more information, you can always log on to ESPN.com.
Well, they haven't forgot old Huggy Bear here in Cincinnati. I got my paper this morning when I woke up. Coffee, newspaper, front page of Cincinnati paper, and there's old Huggy Bear with a scowl on his face. So they still don't forget about him out here. Yesterday had a great battle with the Cincinnati Bearcats, and looks like West Virginia is going to be another tough out in the NCAA tournament as well this year.
Love a good position down deep on Ryan Butler. Now tried to come up to set a screen for Dante Jackson, and it's out of bounds off the foot of Kevin Anderson with 10 to shoot.
Right now, Bob, Jordan Crawford a little bit frustrated with the defense Richmond's putting on him, giving a lot of help, kind of shadowing him as he runs through the screens on the baseline.
Holloway, deflected ball. Jackson with 2 on the shot clock forces it up. Butler, backdoor cut by Smith. Travel. Smith may have been lucky that traveling was called, because he might have been in line for an offensive foul had a walk not been called.
Big possession here for Xavier, understanding that they have to get Jordan Crawford back into the flow. And I think the way they do that is they've got to shrink the defense. They've got to go inside the Jason Love, draw a little attention, and then reverse it quickly, get the ball on the outside. But right now, Crawford can't get a touch.
Now Jackson turns it over, and a foul called on Dante Jackson. Team foul number 6 on Xavier.
Xavier foul number 25 is Dante Jackson. That's his 4th personal foul, 16th foul.
4 fouls on Dante Jackson. And now we shoot free throws the rest of the way, as both teams will be over the limit.
A good move, I think, by Chris Mack, putting Mark Lines in. They need him on offense, but right now, more importantly, defensively, Kevin Anderson getting into the gaps, making things happen here in the second half.
Giroux in the post against Love, one-on-one, fade away, a whistle before the shot, and a foul call that will go against Love. And that will put Dan Giroux at the free throw line to shoot 1-on-1.
That's his first personal foul.
Not a good foul there by Jason Love. Giroux not really a threat to go up and over him or even through him down in the low box. He was fading away, kind of moving towards the foul line, going to shoot a fadeaway jumper or pass the ball, and just puts him on the free throw line.
Giroux can't hit. Missing the front end of 1-on-1s, but a take back by Gonzalez. What terrific hands by David Gonzalez. Anderson sets Giroux up to the corner. Butler for 3. Giroux the offensive rebound. And Anderson resets. This Richmond team has a lot of composure. Butler a pull-up. get the roll. Boy, how many good looks can you get?
They've got some nice looks because they're going inside, middle to Giroux, and then they're finding the shooters on the perimeter. Just can't knock them down.
You can't hit at the free throw line. You get 2 extra possessions. Now Crawford in the corner with Giroux all over him. Tries a 3. And a foul called underneath. And this will go against the Spiders. David Gonzalez called for the personal. A 2-point game as we come down the stretch.
That's his second personal foul.
This is what Judgment Week is all about, presented by Miller Lite. A 2-point game with 3:44 to go. Jordan Crawford had 14 in the first half for Xavier, only 5 in the second half, and he was having the conversation with Bob Donato, one of the officials, while we were away. And you talked about how frustrated he's been here in the second half.
He's frustrated. He's got to create for himself off the ball. He's not moving without the ball. He's normally used to having the ball in his hands, and right now Richmond's stepping out into the passing lanes and getting up on his shoe tops when he catches it, and when he puts it on the floor, giving a lot of help. So he may have to become a distributor first before he gets any looks, but I think more importantly, Xavier's got to look to go inside.
9 points, 9 rebounds for Jamel McLean, which is basically the numbers he's put up over the last 6 games. And Xavier up by 4.
Why Richmond's so good. They just stay within their system and they wait for the defense to make a mistake or Anderson one-on-one.
Anderson steps back. That one hit the backboard first. The back tap by Butler ends up right in the hands of Mark Lyons. So now Richmond needs stops.
Xavier got a big stop there. Nice defense. Got a good contest. Got the loose ball off the glass.
Crawford just about threw it into the backcourt. Good catch by Holloway. Crawford drives it now. Tapped around. Finding its way to Butler.
Big force. Out of frustration. Richmond putting a big on Crawford on that set.
From the corner, a 3. Harper, too strong. Good position by Terrell Holloway. Again, Harper rushed the 3 a bit. Timeout called by Chris Mack.
Not the shot that Richmond wanted out of transition. They can get that shot pretty much any time in their half-court sets. They need to keep running their stuff. And on the other end of the floor, Richmond, what they're doing now, Bob, is they're putting a big man at all times. They're switching out, whether it's Justin Harper, whether it's Ryan Butler at 6'7", wherever Jordan Crawford goes, when he slides through the defense, they'll switch a big out on him. They've got to look to go away from him, maybe go down low to Jason Love.
Bob Wischusen alongside Tim Welsh here in Cincinnati, and you wonder if Tim Welsh can be completely impartial when analyzing this game. Because way back when, in the days of leather helmets and no face masks, yes, Tim Welsh in 1981 was a cornerback slash running back slash H-back slash quarterback slash punt returner.
Wow.
Whatever else you did.
Well, let me just put a couple things on the table right now. Doug Flutie, I wasn't at number 20, even though I wore number 22. And let's just hope that my broadcasting career lasts a lot longer, is a lot more successful than my football career.
The hair had that 70s bouncing body to it.
You know, I had a little something going on back in the day.
A little something.
That was about it. Something. A little something.
1 year at Richmond as a football player. You figured that one out pretty quickly. You got the heck out of there.
Well, I saw the future of Richmond football in front of me. I said, I got to get out of there. They're very good now. They won the national championship last year.
Probably why you got out of there.
Exactly.
You knew they were going to be good.
30 years later, they'd win the national championship. That's why I got out then.
Yeah, a game that I called. Mike London, the head coach at the time, wins a national championship for the Spiders in football in 1AA, and he has moved on to the University of Virginia at UVA.
By the way, I've never seen that picture, so that's pretty good that the people back in the truck came up with that one, because I don't even have that one.
Holloway out near midcourt with the shot clock down to 12. Crosses over on Gonzalez. Offensive foul called on Terrell Holloway. He put the arm out and shoved Gonzalez. second foul on Holloway.
Well, again, Richmond's defense switching out with their bigs out on the perimeter. Now, with the bigs guarding Jordan Crawford, I still think that Xavier's got to go in low. But now here, Richmond just run their stuff, try to get Anderson into the gaps.
Anderson, a quick shot. No good. That's the second straight trip that it has been across the timeline and launch for Richmond. Love catches it deep. Foul.
I'm sure out of the break, that's what Chris Mack told his team. We've got to go to the big fella. He's posting up right in the middle of the lane. Richmond does not have an answer for him down low, especially with their big switching out, really concentrating on the guards on the perimeter. They've got to go to the big guy down low. There, he did a nice job posting up, drawing the foul.
Fourth foul on Kevin Smith. He'll be replaced by Justin Harper after the first free throw, which Love knocks down. Coming up next, Judgment Week continues. Women's basketball. A really good Florida State team will take on the Terps in ACC action. Pam Ward and Rebecca Lobo are standing by. So Florida State on the road to take on Maryland. That's coming up next. 1 of 2 for Love. And it's a 5-point game.
We talked about those quick shots. I don't think Chris Mooney minds them, especially he trusts his two guards to find good spots here in the back door.
Giroux rolls, lets the flyby take place. Patience by the junior center to lay it in, and a quick timeout called by Chris Mooney as now it's a one-possession game.
Well, that's where Richmond can make you pay. They have a quick hitter out of transition. Xavier just overextending on the perimeter, a little anxious, feeling good about themselves because their defense has been good and understanding Richmond shot quick in the last few possessions off the bounce. There they overextend. They make them pay with the backdoor layup.
Joe Lenardi, our bracketologist, comes up with his new last 4 in, last 4 out. As you can see, neither team has a foul to give. The possession arrow belongs to the Spiders. 2 timeouts for each. But you see the Atlantic 10 all over Joe Lenardi's bracketology. Dayton and Rhode Island right now on the outside looking in. I don't think he really has much question about Xavier or Richmond. Both of these teams are going to be in the NCAA tournament.
Well, they're locked down. They will be in along with Temple. I mean, how about the job Fran Dunphy's done? But you look at Rhode Island and Dayton. I mean, they've been hanging around all season long. I still think Rhode Island is going to make a run. They've got to go to UMass. They've got Charlotte at home. If they can get those two, possibly they're going to play a first-round game now because they've dropped out of the top 4, which I think will help them with another win. If they can get that win at home and get 3 more wins, I think they'll get in the tournament.
Inside of 2 minutes to go, Xavier with the ball in a 3-point lead. Love posts up underneath. Has Giroux on his hip. Goes to the baseline, hits the side of the backboard, and Giroux takes it away.
Great job by Giroux, just barreling up, putting his chest right in the backside of Jason Love, denying him that post spot.
Gonzalez on the drive, knocked out of bounds by McLean. Quickly, Justin Harper checking back in for the Spiders. He'll replace Kevin Smith.
Justin Harper for number 12, Kevin Smith.
Well, with Richmond's quick hitters, look for their guards to come off the double screens and try to attack off the bounce.
Giroux rolls underneath, and the layup by Harper. And another quick timeout called by Chris Mooney.
Beautiful play there, coming out of the baseline, out of bounds. Kevin Anderson was trying to set a little double coming off there, and then off the pick and slip. Giroux showing why he's just kind of an old school player. The extra pass to Justin Harper for the nice finish.
I like the use of the timeouts as well by Mooney. He's down only to 1 timeout for the last minute 9, but the crowd kept quiet in what is a brutal building to play in. You get the quick bucket, call the timeout. It gives everyone in here a chance to just settle down that much more.
And on top of everything else, that's a great point by Ben. And the next point is that it will allow him to set his defense in the half court and get his matchups correct, what he wants to do, who he wants to double on, who he wants to switch out on. Not necessarily full court pressure. He'll show a little bit of soft pressure here just to slow Xavier down. But what they can't do is when they score, race it up the court and beat the defense because he calls the timeout.
You expect Xavier to go right back down to Love?
They have to. They have to keep going down low and try to draw the defense. The last time, though, Jason forced the shot. He's got to look at the defense, look where he is on the floor, and try to look opposite or get Crawford moving off the ball. Right now, Jordan Crawford too much standing on the weak side.
1 minute to go. Crawford with a fake. Sets up Jackson in the corner. Dante Jackson pulled the string just a bit. Love with the offensive rebound, plus the foul.
Well, Jordan Crawford started this by being a creator. Usually he takes the big shot, but he throws it to the corner on the driving pitch, and Dante Jackson on dribble penetration draws the defense, and then Giroux doesn't drive Jason Love off the box down low. Chris Mooney did not think this was a foul, but what happens here? Giroux's got to drive him out. They get him a tug of war with the body up top. Bobby Donato with the and one.
Big free throw here. Can't hit it. So it's still just a one-possession game. Plenty of time for Richmond. No need to go for the three yet.
They're going to get a quick two as quick as possible. They're going to drive it into the gap on ball reversal again. Let Gonzalez go one-on-one.
Timeout instead called by Chris Mooney. That's his last timeout with 35 seconds to go. Temple right now playing as well, so all three of the top teams in the Atlantic 10 in action. Xavier and Richmond tied with the Owls at 11-2 in first place in the A-10. But the dynasty has been Xavier. Xavier has won 3 straight Atlantic 10 regular season titles. The only school in A-10 history that's ever won 4 in a row was the 1992 through 96 UMass team. So if Xavier can join that group by winning the Atlantic 10 title again, they've had 5 straight 20-win seasons. You'd think they're going to the NCAA tournament again. It would further extend the dynasty that they've had in this conference.
Well, a lot of people today talked about, well, I think this game may be for not only the player of the year, but for the coach of the year battle. But I disagree. I think both these coaches are right at the top. But when you look at the job that some of these other guys have done on the top board of the leaderboard, I don't think anyone would have imagined that you're talking about 4, 5, and maybe even 6 teams at this point of the season going to the NCAA. So just the coaching jobs that all of these coaches have done in the Atlantic 10 has been very, very special. And today, these guys have both schemed tremendously well. Kind of mix and match their defenses and run different things. They've gone inside, they've gone outside, and hear what Chris Mooney does coming out of this timeout. I think David Gonzalez was ready to take his man off the dribble there when he called the timeout, but they'll run a special isolation where he'll let his guards kind of make a read, whether it's drive it to the hole, pick and slip, or drive and kick to a shooter coming off a screen on the weak side. They have a lot of options in their offense. They'll try to use every option coming out of the timeout.
Still a one-possession game. Richmond could tie it with a 3. Plenty of time, though, to get the 2 and foul. Gonzalez for the tie. Got it!
What a play that was. This is why this is a special team, a special coach. 3 coming off the weak side double.
I was just about to ask you, do you play it out if you're Chris Mack or call a timeout? Before I could ask the question, Chris Mack calls timeout.
Well, he has something in his mind maybe that doesn't trust that his team knows. He wants to make sure they take the last shot out there on the floor. And he's got a lot of hungry offensive players. He's got Terrell Holloway as a sophomore. He's got Jordan Crawford as a sophomore. Special guards, but have they been in this situation where they understand, here's what we want. We want the last possible shot with only a chance for a tip-in. But they have to be aware as they move the ball around the perimeter that Richmond is sneaky good with their steals. They're sneaky good with their traps sometimes coming off ball screens. They'll do a lot of switches. They'll dig in on the post, so they've got to be very careful. They may even wait until 5 seconds before they make their move.
David Gonzalez, 8th best shooting the 3 in the Atlantic 10. That one was clutch, and now let's see where Chris Mack decides to go. Now, Xavier is the #1 scoring team in the Atlantic 10. They average 79.5 points per game. Richmond has held them to 64, at least to this point. Only 1 timeout left for either team, and it belongs to Xavier. Here we go.
If Chris Mack doesn't see what he likes out here, he may, in fact, call another timeout under 10 seconds to go.
It's down to 10 to go. Crawford looks up at the clock. 5 seconds to go. Jordan Crawford crossing over, way outside, picks up his dribble, heaves it, and we're going to overtime. as good a defensive stand as Richmond and Chris Mooney ever could have hoped for. Chris Mack got the ball to his best player, but Crawford couldn't penetrate.
Well, there was nothing there. You'd want your player to try to get in the gap, get something happening, going to the basket, but Richmond give them tremendous credit there. Let's play 5 more.
A game that could eventually become the determining factor in who wins the Atlantic 10. David Gonzalez puts us in overtime. Welcome back to Cincinnati. Judgment Week presented by Miller Lite. Extra basketball. How much fun is this? Richmond and Xavier go to overtime.
Well, it's kind of what we thought, but on that last possession, Jordan Crawford kind of waited too long at the top, and give Richmond tremendous credit. You know, when you slide into another area, they're going to switch out bigs out on you, but they didn't get any movement. They're off the ball, and Jordan Crawford really took an impossible shot, but this has been fun. 5 more minutes will be interesting, because to say the least, because both teams have done a lot of different things to get to this point, going inside, going outside, running, with a great 3-point shot at the end of regulation to tie the game. A tremendous play coming off the double screen by Richmond.
Kevin Smith and Jamel McLean jump it up, and Kevin Smith, at only 6'5", wins the tap for the Spiders. Anderson's pass deflected. Jason Love took it away. Anderson takes it back, and his floater goes down, and Richmond has the lead.
Well, that's why they're special. They make a bad play on offense. You start to go up the floor, but they stay with it, and Anderson, just a nice little teardrop in the lane.
Kevin Anderson was scoreless at halftime. Now he's up to 13. Holloway gets Giroux caught on a switch, takes him to the basket, scores with the left hand.
That's the well I think Xavier has to go to. Terrell Holloway off the bounce, making things happen for himself or other people.
Butler finds a crease. Offensive foul. Again, it's Holloway making the plays. He stepped in and took the charge.
That's his first personal foul. Returning to the Musketeer lineup, number 25, Dante
Jackson back in. He has 4 fouls. Mark Lyons goes to the bench.
Jordan Crawford gets all the kudos, and rightfully so, for what he's done this season. But Terrell Holloway, how he's evolved as a point guard, not only offensively, but as a leader on the defensive end this afternoon. Very, very special. 2 great plays in a row. Jordan Crawford very frustrated, throwing elbows, talking to the referees off the ball. He needs to just play basketball.
Holloway with the shot clock down to 7. Shaking and baking with the shot clock at 5. Finger roll off the glass. 17 for Terrell Holloway.
Xavier very fortunate that Terrell Holloway came to play in those last few possessions. He's doing it all by himself right now.
Anderson tries to answer and does. He's big time.
What body control. Just pulls up on a dime. Fade away. Looks like he's going all the way and then just rises up, shoulders square. What a touch.
Holloway with room. Giroux out on a switch, and they're not switching back. Crawford now with 10 to shoot. Bullet pass looking for Jamel McLean, and he threw it away. We are at the Cintas Center here in Cincinnati. 2 teams, part of a 3-way tie in the Atlantic 10 for first place in Judgment Week, presented by Miller Lite. Number 24, Richmond, taking on Xavier. Pavel Schuzen and Tim Welsh bringing you overtime now. Coming up next, Florida State and Maryland. Women's college basketball. Pam Ward, Rebecca Lobo standing by. 2:20 to go. Giroux thought about a 3. Drives it down the lane now instead and uses the glass.
It's been a battle of point guards here in the last 8 or 9 minutes, and Terrell Holloway's got to keep that ball in his hand. Right now, Jordan Crawford doesn't have his A game because he's gassed a little bit because of the defense.
Crawford, tough shot. And the back tap, run down by Gonzalez. Gonzalez has his pocket picked by Jordan Crawford. Crawford spins. Can't finish. There's Jason Love, though, to tap it home. And we're tied at 70. Timeout called.
Give Jordan Crawford all the credit in the world. Frustrated on offense, but coming back on the other end with the strip of Gonzalez and then all the way to the rack. Looks like he's out of control, but draws the defense in, which allows Jason Love to get loose on the back line, and the great tip in.
Jason Love closing in on a double-double as well now. And he has been really the crux of the offense in the second half. When Xavier has played well, they have gone through their big senior center.
Well, they have. They're a little bit stagnant right now. They're getting things off. Only Terrell Holloway's penetration into the gap. They need to get more movement and cutters. They started the game and they had to use their cutters offense where weak side, you're drawing people into the defense and then replacing them quickly with another cut through the defense. And right now, Xavier is just kind of standing around waiting for one-on-one moves on the perimeter, and that's not going to cut it here. Jordan Crawford's got to keep moving without the ball, kind of be a moving target for Richmond's defense.
It's been a while since Xavier lost in the Atlantic 10 here at home. And again, they are 68-10 all time against conference competition at the Cintas Center, and 133-17 since the building opened. So if Richmond can pull this off in overtime, they will have earned every bit of first place in the Atlantic 10.
Well, there's no question. In overtime, people from Richmond reminded me yesterday that they've won here twice in the last, since the Atlantic 10's inception and Dayton hasn't won here since the 70s. So you're talking about a team that's playing with a lot of confidence, especially in this building, but both teams are taking each other's best punch to the chest right now and going back and forth because baskets are very, very hard to find because the defense has been tremendous.
Now Richmond on the road, equally impressive. The only team over the last 3 years in the Atlantic 10 that has more road wins than Richmond is Xavier. In the last 3 years, Richmond has won 14 Atlantic 10 road games to Xavier's 15. So they've won on the road before. Can they do it in the last 90 seconds? Gonzalez lays it up, no good. Giroux fights for it, but it's won by McLean.
That was a tremendous move by Gonzalez. He did everything but put it down. And Xavier fortunate here. He's got to get some good movement here on ball reversal and a lot of cutting off the ball.
They go back down to Love.
1 minute remaining.
Crawford around the Love screen. It's Giroux caught on the perimeter. What a head fake. Too strong. And Giroux has the rebound off the tip inside from Harper.
Well, that's what Richmond's defense does. They may beat one guy off the bounce, but then the help is always there to protect outside the lane.
Anderson a fade away. McLean the rebound, and the shot clock now turned off. Let's see if Chris Mack uses his timeout to try and set up what might be the last shot. And he will.
Timeout, Xavier.
So again, the exact same position we were in at the end of regulation. Xavier has the ball. It's a tie game, and Chris Mack's going to draw something up with a chance to win it.
Well, the one problem with using your last timeout is if you can't get the ball in bounds. That problem doesn't present itself here against Richmond because they're not going to get out and deny the inbounds pass. But what Xavier has to do differently than they did at the end of regulation is attack. Put the ball down to the baseline, get the ball going to the rim somehow, some way. They waited too long on the last possession at the end of regulation, took a fadeaway three-pointer from NBA range. They need to get something going to the rim, even if they get it up on the rim with a chance to tip it in.
Love that last play that they ran, though, and they got it down to Love, back out to Crawford, got Giroux caught on a switch. And boy, Jordan Crawford faked Dan Giroux out of his shoes and had that little baby floater on the baseline, but just put a little too much on it. Xavier was that close to taking the lead.
Exactly. That was a good move. That was a good possession, and that's what they have to do. They've got to get ball movement and player movement. If they just stand and wait to the end of the clock, they'll have to force up another bad shot. Richmond's defense won't allow them to get anything clean if they don't move. Look for a high running ball screen. Jason Love at the top.
10 seconds to go. Crawford with 5 seconds remaining. Crawford outside again. 2 seconds to go for the win. Off the mark again. Double overtime. Florida State and Maryland are underway. The women's game that is coming up next with Rebecca Lobo and Pam Ward standing by. That game again is underway, and we will get you to College Park as soon as we're done in Cincinnati. Who knows when?
I'd stay here all day watching this stuff. This is tremendous basketball. Both teams going toe-to-toe, and here you see Crawford. Better move here, taking the ball in isolation. They got him on the wing where he had a one-on-one opportunity, but Gonzalez did a nice job of taking away that penetration to the baseline and cutting him off. He's got that great side, made him take a tough contested shot.
Now, from a Richmond standpoint, at the end of regulation and the end of overtime, even though Jordan Crawford is the top player in the conference and probably should be the A-10 player of the year, you still forced him into a one-on-one fadeaway force. Now, I would think that if I were Chris Mooney, I'd sign up for the 2 looks that Jordan Crawford got at the end of regulation and the end of the first overtime any day.
Absolutely, and that's what his defense does. It makes you uncomfortable out there. You can't run your normal man stuff. I think what they normally would do, they did it at the end of the Cincinnati game when they won, when Crawford hit the big shot, they come up and set Love at the top with a running ball screen and make you switch out on a big or try to go underneath or over the top, and they'll slip to the basket. But Richmond's bigs are very, very adept of covering guards. When you talk about Ryan Butler, when you talk about Giroux, they can get out and move their feet on the perimeter, and they'll switch everything out there, and they've got give a lot of help on ball side, and they kind of get out in the passing lanes and make it very, very difficult. Richmond is just taking Xavier's best punch here, and here we go again. 5 more, Bob.
12 ties, 13 lead changes, first place and possibly the conference title in the Atlantic 10 on the line. Double overtime. Xavier earlier this season won the crosstown rivalry with Cincinnati in double overtime, the only double overtime game that either of these 2 teams have played this year. Holloway straight away. Anderson lost it out of bounds.
Xavier retains possession. The Musketeers holding down.
A lot of contact underneath as Giroux got caught up top on Holloway on a switch. So the diminutive front line for Richmond did all they can to keep Love off the glass. Crawford forces one. And the loose ball lands in the lap of Ryan Butler, and he's out of bounds.
Xavier right here out of the get-go, attacking a little bit more aggressive, not standing around against the Richmond matchup. Dan Giroux got caught out there on the ball screen guarding Terrell Holloway. He has to take advantage, use his quickness, try to get around.
Love wants to go against Butler. Here comes the double team. Sets up Holloway for 3. Got it. Pick your poison there.
Well, pick your poison, but Kevin Anderson did not do a good job closing out on Terrell Holloway. He hesitated. That hesitation, Holloway felt it, he smelled it, knocked it down.
Giroux straight away for the tie. Way off the mark. McLean saves it to Lyons.
Chris Mooney gives his players a lot of freedom, but not the look they want in that situation.
Jason Love. Outside to Lyons. He uses the glass. The long rebound to Smith. And Kevin Smith's going to wait for some help. Finds it in Anderson. Anderson straightaway jumper. Connects. That's a long 2 for Kevin Anderson. And it's a 1-point game.
He's not even in your screen. He comes down as the trailer and finds that little gap eyes open wide and knocks it in. Just needs a little room out there. That's all he needs.
Again, Kevin Anderson was scoreless at halftime. Now he's up to 17. Holloway, tough shot, and he knocks it down.
I'd pay a lot of money to watch these two guards go at it any day of the year. Anderson and Holloway, mano a mano.
Gonzalez, offensive foul.
No basket. Basket is fouled. Richmond foul. Number 5 against David Gonzalez. That's his third personal foul. Xavier rebound. Returning the Musketeer line.
Maldonado had the call. And Chris Mooney would love to get a word in.
Not a good move there by Gonzalez. Trying to make something happen, but at the top of the key, very, very difficult to drive into the middle. You've got to wait till you get isolation on the wing. Great play there by Xavier on the defensive end.
Holloway drives again. And a foul called on Richmond that will put Holloway at the free throw line if he can shoot the free throws. He was poked in the eye on his way through traffic. Let's see if Terrell Holloway can gather himself and get to the free throw line.
You better tackle your trainer over there. Don't let him step foot on that court, because at 84%, that's the guy you want on the free throw line. And Chris Mack looked down and said, sit down, medical help.
Let's take another look. You see the bump by Anderson, and then the right hand, it looked like of Ryan Butler, raked across his face after Anderson had already been called for the foul. Well, the eyes are still tearing up for Terrell Holloway, but he's going to step to the free throw line. He signals over to the bench, I'm okay. 84% for Terrell Holloway, number 1 in the Atlantic 10.
Well, this is problematic, though. I mean, you say don't come out on the floor, but if his eye is indeed, it's half closed, half open over there, and it's like he did get poked pretty good. He's a tough guy, and he doesn't want to come out, but
women's basketball coming up next. Florida State and Maryland already underway in College Park. We'll get you there as soon as we're done with double overtime, and who knows how much more between Richmond and Xavier. It's an automatic 2 the rest of the way for Xavier. It's the double bonus. Holloway knocks down the first. Still only 18 fouls on Xavier, so believe it or not, there's still one more 1-on-1 to go for Richmond.
You just got to love Terrell Holloway and Kevin Anderson. Just not only the way they played, but their composure. They never change their body language. They just play with a tremendous speed and energy, but not a lot of emotion, but just a lot of smarts and toughness.
24 for Holloway. Anderson, the seas part, and he just barely comes up short.
Just took off a couple steps too quick, couldn't get all the way to the rack, and a half floater, half layup, missed it.
Holloway backs it out, coming up on 2 minutes to go. Richmond really needs a stop here. If this gets up to 7 or 8 with under 2 minutes to go. 10 to shoot. Holloway creating some room with 5 seconds on the shot clock. He'll try a 3. And the long rebound out to Anderson. Butler in transition. Butler, a blocking foul. They want to score the basket. Let's see what the official call is. It's going to be a conference. Score the basket for Ryan Butler, and a chance for a 3-point play.
Richmond took advantage. They saw numbers out there on the floor. Then Butler with a nice in and out, releases the ball on contact. That's where he's a coach's son. He understands. Felt the contact, throw it up and hope.
Joe Lindsay and Ray Perrone got together to make sure that they agreed that it should be a 3-point play chance. I think they got it right.
I think they did too, because the contact came in the motion of shooting as he was making his move to the basket, and Ryan Butler was smart enough to feel the contact and just kind of throw it up on the rim. Got the basket.
The foul was called on Dante Jackson. That's his 5th. So he has now fouled out. So an opportunity for a conference at each bench for a moment. While Chris Mack puts a new player into the game for Dante Jackson. And a chance for Ryan Butler to spend that much more time thinking about the free throw to come, potentially make it a 2-point game.
Rick Majerus may be watching this at home saying what goes around comes around, because Xavier in the St. Louis game earlier in the week on Wednesday night made 3 shots, 2 by Jason Love, on their back, falling down on their back, similar to those type situations right there. Smart play right there by Ryan Butler.
His dad was a star at Richmond back in the 70s. Jeff Butler, an assistant coach during some of Richmond's glory years. And Ryan Butler's 3-point play has made it a 2-point game in double overtime.
In the last possession, Xavier really took the air out of the ball. They have to continue to attack, because if you wait to the end of the clock, Richmond makes it very difficult. It's got to be quick hitters, quick cutters to the rim.
Crawford has the entry pass blocked and stolen by Gonzalez.
Again, too much standing around. Shouldn't have tried to throw it into Jason Love. He was too far off the block there. There was nothing he could have done with the basketball if he did catch it.
Xavier with 20 turnovers. We'll step aside for a moment. Back to the studio and Ryan Burr.
Thanks so much, Bob. Great game going there. As soon as that is final, we go to Florida State at Maryland. Early action here. Jandra Chitwong inside for the Terps, up and good. And right now, Maryland on top of number 9 Florida State, 15-10. Ryan Burke, Kara Lawson in studio. And Kara, huge game for Maryland at home. How important bubble-wise is it that they win?
I think it's a must-win for Maryland. When you look at how they've been trending, they've lost 7 of their last 11, going in a backslide. They have a high number of wins, but they played a soft non-conference. So to get a quality win against a top 15 team in Florida State at home, that'd be huge.
Now, they're up 5 early in this one. We get you right out to that game. Florida State and Maryland, as soon as we're done with double or maybe triple overtime. Xavier and Richmond.
All right, Ryan, thanks very much. So it's Ryan Burr and Kara Lawson standing by. It'll be Rebecca Lobo and Pam Ward bringing you the call of Florida State and Maryland in a moment. But Bob Wischusen alongside Tim Welch down to the last minute 5 of double overtime here at Xavier. Anderson down to 12 on the shot clock. Bullet pass under to Giroux. Tied up by McLean. Possession arrow will keep it with Richmond. 8 seconds on the shot clock.
Nice delivery, nice catch by Giroux, but Xavier just attacking the ball. Anderson coming off the double, then the pick and slip on the sideline.
Into Anderson in the corner, 7 to shoot. Anderson looking for some room. Crazy floater. About an 8-second differential between the shot clock and game clock. Love across the lane. Richmond with a chance to tie or take the lead. Let's see if Chris Mooney uses his timeout. He's got 1 left. Anderson instead will attack. Hands it to Giroux, and he's fouled. Chris Mooney let his team play it out. And Dan Giroux off the feed from Anderson with a chance to tie the game at the line.
Well, there's the ultimate trust in a coach and his team, understanding they're going to make the right play. And there's the guy who made the right play. Kevin Anderson drew the team, drew the defense on the baseline drive, and then a nice hook pass underneath. And then Giroux.
Only the 2nd foul on Love. So Dan Giroux, only a 62% free throw shooter. He missed his entire junior season last year, so he's a redshirt junior after he tore up his knee, an ACL injury in the preseason. As a sophomore, averaged 14 points a game, only 7 points a game this season. More of a role player, but a real leader, according to Chris Mooney.
Talk about leaving your heart and soul on the floor. This young man today.
And now he's got to bear down and at least make 1. And Chris Mooney is going to orchestrate where the foul's going to come from after the next free throw.
Dan Giroux has guarded Jason Love, who's guarded Jordan Crawford, and he's banged all night long, but Right now, he's got to find some energy just to put this in.
Got one of two. Now Richmond has to get set up to foul. As quickly they will check Francis Martell back in. He'll replace Giroux. Florida State, Maryland underway. We'll get you there as soon as we can. A timeout call. Xavier has called their final timeout here in double overtime. So Chris Mack, I'm sure, not only wants to engineer getting the ball in, but who he wants to get it to. Terrell Holloway is the best free throw shooter in the Atlantic 10 at 84%.
Well, there's no question in your playbook you have to have a go-to play here in the final 14 seconds. Getting the ball, A, inbounds, but B, getting into the guy you want to get it into. And that's why Chris Mack called that timeout. But certainly he's got to have a lot of confidence that his team is going to get the ball inbounds. He's putting Brad Redford in the game, who's been sitting there all afternoon long. He knows he's another lockdown shooter, but he's ice cold coming from the bench. He's got to make sure he runs the baseline and gets the ball inbounds with no timeouts left.
If you're Chris Mooney and Richmond, can you draw something up here to try and get the ball inbounded to the player you want shooting free throws, or is it unrealistic to think that you're going to have that much control?
Well, I think basically you have to get up on the basketball, really bother it, try to switch out on everything, try to gamble a little bit, and be careful of Xavier throwing over the top. They've got all four guys up on the four across here. They will definitely send somebody long. What they'll do here is they'll probably run the baseline, have Holloway come back ball side off the double, like off Lyons' hip.
Crawford will throw it in. Shovels it into Love, and there's the foul. That's not bad for Richmond. Jason Love is a 69% free throw shooter. That's a far cry from either Redford or Holloway, who are well over 80%. Martell gave the foul, but probably a best case scenario for the Spiders, other than a steal.
Obviously, Jason Love was in the game to set a screen only, but good smarts on his part coming back to the ball. The big target, not the best player on the line, but obviously made a good play, just getting it in.
Automatic two-shot foul, and the first one rolls home. Giroux and Harper both come back in. Smith and Martell to the bench. Plenty of three-point shooters on the floor if that's what Richmond needs.
Xavier has to be very aware, if they're only up two, that Richmond will go for the jugular. They will spot up shooters and go for the win out of transition.
Love, one of two. Lost out of bounds by Crawford with 12 seconds to go. Chris Mooney still has one more timeout to use. Now he only needs a two-point basket.
There's no question about it that Kevin Anderson is going to the rack on a side ball screen.
Here comes Anderson. No timeout called by Richmond. Anderson throws it up top to Giroux. Down to 2 seconds to go. A timeout called by Mooney with 3 seconds remaining. The play was falling apart. Mooney calls timeout. They may even go to the monitor to see if maybe an extra couple of ticks should be put back on the clock.
Well, good play there by Chris Mooney. Even though he saw Giroux getting the ball in the middle of the floor, that he wasn't comfortable with that. He wants the ball in Kevin Anderson's hands and David Gonzalez's hands to make a play either for themselves or driving it to get it to Ryan Butler, maybe for the three to run out of here with the win. But right now, he's got a different situation. Xavier's going to switch out on some screens on the baseline, look for them to run Kevin Anderson off some sort of double at the top or baseline, and then he's going to try to make a play off the bounce or try to run out of here with a winning three.
As we thought, the officials have gone over to the monitor to see if maybe a little bit more time should be put back on the clock. But what is at stake? Only first place in the Atlantic 10 with a week to go. A couple of games remaining for both of these teams. Temple playing LaSalle as we speak. They were losing by 1 at halftime last check. So the winner of this game could very well be in the driver's seat to win the Atlantic 10. It looks like after going to the monitor, the officials are going to rule that they got it right. 3.1 seconds to go.
Now, interesting, Xavier's coming out of the timeout thinking that the ball should have been inbounded on the sideline, but the officials are giving Richmond the ball underneath the basket. So Chris Mack spent that timeout designing a defense for a sideline out of bounds where in fact the ball is baseline out of bounds. And now if you didn't know that, that's the assistant's fault. They have to make sure they ask the referee, where is the ball being inbounded from?
Here we go. 3 seconds to go. 2-point game. Butler will throw it in. No timeouts, have to get it in. It's Harper on the drive. No good. What a terrific basketball game, and a double overtime win for Xavier as they take the lead from Richmond in the Atlantic 10, and for the time being from Temple as well.
Well, Justin Harper made a nice move. He wasn't the A guy that they wanted the ball, but he got all the way to the rack. He just didn't finish quick enough to the rack. Faded away. Chris Mooney wanted the foul. Chris Mack wanted the win.
And a good no call by the officials. A terrific game. And Xavier survives in double overtime. The preseason has been an exclusive presentation.